So, welcome to part 2 of the video. This is the second part of the demo on Luminar 4 and seeing if we can use it to recover a badly rendered image. It was a bit too dark and a bit too messy. Like I said, this is part 2. If you're just tuning in for the first time, you should go back to watching part 1 first, because this will make a whole lot more sense if you do. Alrighty, let's kick on. Let's get back to the video. If we pop down to the next one, this is all grayed out because the system knows there's no sky in there. Not sure what you want to do if you did want to. If it had thought that there was no sky and there was, that might be tricky, but yeah, but at the moment it's all good. You can do a sun ray. I might just pop one in just for the fun of it, just so we can see what the effect is. Pop that in there, put a whole bunch of light. It does a really good job of these sun rays when you put them behind trees. The beams, this penetration, the system is clever enough to understand what a tree looks like and be able to have shadows and lights fall in exactly the right place. So very powerful tool, very good for doing sun rays through trees. You can put it off to the side there like that, so you don't have that big white dot. But yeah, very good for doing fancy effects. Fancy effects in trees and things. It's quite good. So let's just turn it all off because we don't need that. Actually, I think there we go. Get rid of the dot in the top corner. Dramatic. It adds tonal values and highlights and contrast and things like that, just to make it a bit grainy, a bit noir, I guess would be the term. Does a very good job depending on the picture, but for this one we'll just do it all manually. Matte look, just slide that up so you can see. It adds I guess a feeling of an older photograph to it. Puts a bit of a white over the top of the whole image. It's good if you want to do that old photograph look, but yeah, it does a very good job when you've got the right kind of photo, and this photo would work very well with that, but I've got other things in mind for it. Mystical, got to be honest, never used it, so let's just check it out. Let's crank it right up. There you go. Gives you a bit of a halo effect, I guess you would call it. Very soft look and very halo effect. It might work well with portraits. That's nicely coloured portraits. You can load Luts into here, so cubes or Luts can be used to have predetermined styles. So there you go, you can pick one and it automatically applies it. Again, we're adjusting all the settings manually, so we don't need to worry about that. Film grain, I think, would work well with the matte look as well. So it just adds a bit of grain to the image. We're not going to use that, and I don't think we're going to use the matte look either, so let's make sure that we've turned them all off. Okay, so the portrait stuff, which is really what we came for. So the skin enhancers. Let's just zoom right in, get a bit up close and personal. Let's turn on the Defect Removal. So again, it's made it a little bit soft, but I do want to keep some of the detail, but I will just show you what it does. Let's just crank it up so we can see the effect. So as you can see, a lot of the pore detail has disappeared around the nose and around the sides of the cheeks here. Just wind it back just a smidge. So it has softened out the complexion a lot, removed a lot of the artifacts in the face. Depending on the portraiture that you're going for, I think that's really good. I am going to use a little bit of this and also remove a little bit of the shine, which should take away the bright spots. Just I've only, just touched it, so it's not going to be a great deal, but let's just turn it off again. There we go. So when you look at the detail through here, let's just zoom in again. So you can see the detail through here, all the dots, and through there. Let's turn it on. Can't really see a great deal of difference. Let's just crank it right up just so we can see what's going on. Yeah, so you can see it's made sort of a, it's applied what I would call like a pancake makeup to the figure. You've lost a lot of the finer details, so it looks like they're wearing foundation, and for some photos that's great. That's exactly what you want. Now in the portrait enhancer, as opposed to just the skin, you've got lots of different options to look at, and some of them are very, very good. It does an excellent job in here. So just zoom out. So we've got some very dark spots in this render. Like I said, it wasn't a great render to start with. Let's go back to the original. Yes, it's very dark through the eyes and through the face there. So using the AI portrait enhancer, it can tell what part of the photo you want to adjust, which is just the portrait, just the face. So let's just add a bit of light to the subject. So it will attempt to brighten up the face of the subject without adjusting the brightness of the background or anything like that. Let's just crank it right up so we can see. So you can see it's just added the brightness to the face there, and it has added a little bit of noise to the photo, as you'd expect, pulling out all of that dark and enhancing all these areas. You are going to get some noises. This photo, or this render I should say, really should have just been binned and started again, but what we've done is we're just trying to rescue it and see how far we can make Luminar 4 go. Now I think that's actually quite good for the face light, not too bright. Red eye removal speaks for itself, but this character doesn't have any. Eye whitening looks at the I believe it's called the sclera, something like that. The white part of the eye, it will just lighten those just a bit. The eye enhancer will affect the color of the iris. Let me just crank that up again, see if we can see his bright blue eyes. May not work because they may be just a little bit too dark. They've lifted a little bit, but not a great deal. Dark circle removal would remove any darkness under here and here. I don't want to do that. I actually like this to be a little bit darker under there, so it's going to stay where it is. There is a slim face, which let's just crank that across. As you can see, it's narrowing the whole face, and the software is attempting to do it as best as it can. Now I've gone to the extreme here. It's narrowing the face and it's attempting not to bend any of the surrounding areas, so it has moved that a little bit. It's moved that window pane a small amount, but it has made that face quite a lot narrower. Now I'm going to turn it on, but I'm going to wind it back a bit. 70% was a little bit excessive, so let's just check the original again. So yeah, so we've moved it, narrowed that face just a little bit without affecting the background, which is really, really good, very good. You can enlarge the eyes depending on what you're going for. If you're going for a cartoony look or an anime kind of feel, then you know, go for broke. That's, you know, it's a great little feature for doing that, but we'll just do it for laughs here. It's really enlarged the eyes there, but obviously not what we're going for. So let's just turn that down again. Let's go back to normal. Alright, so improve eyebrows, just darkens up the brows a little bit, just to make them stand out a bit. So let's just wind that up just a touch, just to make them a little bit darker to match the hair. Lip saturation, lip redness. Now he's got reasonable skin tone on his lips, but you could crank that up and it will automatically detect the lips and the edges and make them a bit redder. Now great if you've got a model wearing lipstick. This guy is not, so let's just, we'll leave it on just a touch, just for the fun of it. Lips darkening, let's just wind that up so we can see what that does. Adds a bit of detail to the valleys and the folds in the lips. And lip saturation, just adjust the overall saturation of the image, the color brightness. So we'll pump that up a little bit, but doesn't really need it. Teeth whitening, does a great job. Unfortunately this guy's got his mouth closed, so we can't see that. So let's roll that back up again. High key, good for high key photos, changes the brightness and contrast to lighten things up. Again, we won't use that today. Orton Effect is a bit of a funny one. Honestly, I don't know what Orton is, but it adds a soft, let's call it a soft glow to the image. Softens everything up, highlights the lights coming in through windows. Not really what we're after for this particular image. It's good to have a little bit on in some cases. There's a type 1 and a type 2. I'll just turn that one off, go to type 2, give you a bit of a look of what that one does. That's okay. That one's a little less dramatic, I guess you would call it, but does give a nice soft edge to the portrait. It's a little bit bold there, so I'll wind that back. So then we come to the Pro features. These ones are good if you want to adjust the highlights and contrast and things like that. Color enhancer, well, we've spent a lot of time already desaturating this photo, so we won't do much there. You can, you know, cool it down a little bit more if you want to. Let's just wait for it to process. But I think leaving it pretty well where it was is fine. Let's turn it off, close it all back up again. I think the last thing I'm going to do is, like I mentioned, I was after a bit of a grungy look for this image. I think it's come out really well. I think it's a usable image now compared to what it was when I first rendered it. That was pretty well set for the bin until I thought, well, let's have a play. So as well as you're editing your image, you can also add layers. So we'll have a look at the layers tools that are in here as well, and I'll add an extra layer as you would do in Photoshop or in PaintShop Pro. Doesn't have anywhere near the same functionality, but this is a tool for making quick adjustments and quick enhancements. This is not Photoshop, but it does a great job on what it does do. Alright, so let's add a layer. We'll add a new image layer. So I've got an image which I'm just going to pop on top, called Tintype. There we go. So it's just dumped that straight on top, new layer, job done. So what we'll do is we will make that an overlay. Actually, no, we won't. Or will we? Let's have a look at see what some of the different features are. So hard light and soft light. This is pretty well the same sort of features as what you'd get if you did it in Photoshop or something like that. So we'll wind back the transparency of that overlay. So I don't think we need it quite that bold. Let's just see. Screen any better? No, we don't want the screen. Alright, so what we'll also do is we'll have an edit mask here. So we just want that that overlay. We don't want it all over his face, we just want it on the windows in the background, was all I was thinking. So let's just use the brush, and we'll go up here, up the top to erase, and all things being equal, let's just make sure that worked before we go too far. Oh, hang on. Let's just change the opacity to 100% for erasing. There we go. Let's just quickly erase that from his face. Don't need to be super careful with it. I think that looks pretty good. Yep, that's cleaned up nicely from around his face. Let's change the opacity just a little bit more. Actually, what I might do is bring that up, but erase it off here. I think the computer's having trouble keeping up here. I think I might have broken it. There we go. Just having a little bit of trouble keeping up with what I was doing. That's better. That way we've got a little bit of grungy look, and the windows are still nice and dirty, but the main character and the walls are pretty good. So I think let's just roll that one up again. Oh, I accidentally turned that one off. Let's turn him back on. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's go back to Hank for a minute. I think the last thing that we want under photo, no, under, let's get rid of that, don't need that. That's the one I'm after. Under the essentials is a vignette. That gives us the nice dark edge to the photo. So you can choose a subject. There we go, so that's yes, I want it, actually we want it pre-crop, I think. So we can bring up the inner light so that the image doesn't get too dark in the middle. So let's just find out which way this one's working. It's the only trouble with these things. Let's bring the size down a little bit. So most of these vignette settings, what they will do is they will have a slider. There we go. Now I can see it. We'll have a slider here that it sort of sits in the middle. So if you go to the left, it will darken the outside of the image. And if you go to the right, it will lighten the image. We want it a little bit darker around the edge. Make that a little bit bigger. But let's just make sure that it's not too dark. All right. Cool. Now go back to our layers, make sure that that one is still turned on. There we go. I think from the original image, which was a bit yellow, a little bit green in the background, very dark, I think we've done a pretty good job of salvaging it. It's still not a great image, it's still a little bit noisy in places, but overall I think it's a much usable picture. We did get rid of some of the noise by changing the color scheme. So there you go. I think that's salvaged that picture, and I think I might upload that one to Instagram. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. Tune in next time when we might look at some more of the features of Luminar 4. Thanks very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and you can check out some of my other images that I've done on Instagram under Hot Dog Telepathy. Thanks a lot.